We now bring you this breaking news. King Charles and Queen Camilla have arrived in Ottawa for a brief but significant visit to Canada, marking a less than 24-hour stay that underscores the importance of their engagement with the country. The King arrived at the Senate building to deliver the Liberal government's throne speech as the new parliamentary session officially kicks off. We'll now cross over to Ottawa in Canada for the live feeds.
Mr. Speaker, I am commanded by His Majesty the King to declare to you that he freely confides in the duty and attachment of the House of Commons to His Majesty's person and government, and not doubting that their proceedings will be conducted with wisdom, temper, and prudence. He grants and upon all occasions will recognize and allow their constitutional privileges. I am commanded also to assure you that the Commons shall have ready access to His Majesty upon all seasonable occasions, and that their proceedings, as well as your words and actions, will constantly receive from him.
Mr. Speaker, I am commanded by His Majesty the King to declare to you that he freely confides in the duty and attachment of the House of Commons to His Majesty's person and government, and not doubting that their proceedings will be conducted with wisdom, temper, and prudence, he grants, and upon all occasions will recognize upon all seasonable occasions, and that their proceedings, as well as your words and actions, will constantly receive from him the most favorable construction.
Honourable Senators, members of the House of Commons, it is with a deep sense of pride and pleasure that my wife and I join you here today as we witness Canadians coming together in a renewed sense of national pride, unity, and hope. I would like to acknowledge that we are gathered on the unceded territory of the Algonquin and Anishinaabe people. This land acknowledgement is a recognition of shared. It is my great hope that in each of your communities and collectively as a country, a path is found toward truth and reconciliation in both word and deed. More than half a century, and my first as sovereign. As I've said before, my bloodstream, and from there straight to my heart. I've always had the greatest admiration for Canada's unique identity, which is recognized across the world for bravery and sacrifice in defense of national values and for the diversity and kindness of Canadians. To the First Nations, Inuit and Métis peoples, you have welcomed my family and myself to your traditional lands with great warmth and hospitality, for which I am humbly grateful. This year, we mark the 80th anniversary of VE Day and VJ Day. On Juno Beach, at Dieppe, on the Somme, at Beaumont-Hamel, at Ypres, and on Vimy Ridge. At those places and many others, forever etched into our memories, Canadians fought and died alongside our closest allies.
Today, I see representatives from every part of Canada, from St. John's, Newfoundland and Labrador, to Victoria, British Columbia, and Arviat in Nunavut. I see the guardians of the fundamental rights and freedoms guaranteed in the Canadian Charter. And as King, I thank you for your service to your fellow Canadians across the length and breadth of this vast and great nation.
You speak for your communities, representing an incredible richness of cultures and perspectives. We owe it to this generation and those who succeed us to think and act for the greater good of all. While the world faces unprecedented challenges, generating uncertainties across the continents with regards to peace and stability, economics and climate change, your communities have the skills and determination to bring a wealth of solutions. En encourageant la collaboration,
by fostering collaboration, constructive debates, you will ensure this government is capable of bold and fair action to support Canadians.
It has been nearly 70 years since the Sovereign first opened Parliament. In the time since, Canada has dramatically changed, repatriating its constitution, achieving. Canada has embraced its British, French, and Indigenous roots and become a bold, ambitious, innovative country that is bilingual, truly multicultural, and committed to reconciliation. The Crown has for so long been a symbol of unity for Canada. It also represents stability and continuity from the past to the present. As it should, it stands proudly as a symbol of Canada today in all her richness and dynamism. When my dear late mother, Queen Elizabeth II, opened a new Canadian Parliament in 1957, the Second World War remained a fresh, painful memory. The Cold War was intensifying. Freedom and democracy were under threat. Canada was emerging as a growing economic power and a force for peace in the world. In the decades since, history has been punctuated by epoch-making events: the Vietnam War, the fall of the Berlin Wall, and the start of the War on Terror. Today, Canada faces another critical moment. Democracy, pluralism, the rule of law, self-determination, and freedom are values which Canadians hold dear, and ones which the government is determined to protect. The system of open global trade that, while not perfect, has helped to deliver prosperity for Canadians for decades, is changing. Canada's relationships with partners are also changing.
We must be clear-eyed. The world is more dangerous and uncertain place than at any point since the Second World War. Canada is facing challenges that are unprecedented in our lifetimes.
Many Canadians are feeling anxious and worried about the drastically changing world around them. Fundamental change is always unsettling. To think big and to act, an opportunity for Canada to embark on the largest transformation of its economy since the Second World War. A confident Canada, which has welcomed new Canadians, including from some of the most tragic global conflict zones, can seize this opportunity by recognizing that all Canadians can give themselves far more than any foreign power on any continent can ever take away. And that by staying true to Canadian values, Canada can build new alliances and a new economy that serves all Canadians. The Prime Minister and the President of the United States, for example, have begun defining a new economic and security relationship between Canada and the United States, rooted in mutual respect and founded on common interests to deliver transformational benefits for both sovereign nations. Simultanément,
relationships with reliable trading partners and allies around the world, recognizing that Canada has what the world needs and the values the world respects. Canada is ready to build a coalition of like-minded countries that share its values, that believe in international cooperation and the free and open exchange of goods, services, and ideas. In this new, fast-evolving world, Canada is ready to lead. This will be demonstrated in June, when Canada convenes the G7 summit.
The government is guided by its conviction that the economy is only truly strong when it serves everyone. Many Canadians are struggling to get ahead. The government is responding, reducing middle-class taxes and saving two-income families up to $840 a year. It will cut the GST on homes at or under $1 million for first-time home buyers, delivering savings of up to $50,000. And it will lower the GST on homes between $1 million and $1.5 million.
In addition to these, the government has recently expanded the Canadian Dental Care Plan to cover about 8 million Canadians, saving the average person more than $800 annually.
The government's overarching goal, its core mission, is to build the strongest economy in the G7. That starts with creating one Canadian cost Canada as much as $200 billion each year. The government will introduce legislation to remove all remaining federal barriers to internal trade and labour mobility by Canada Day.
Numerous premiers have already taken vital steps to break down provincial and territorial barriers to trade. Together, we will build on that progress to deliver free trade across the nation. This is critical to unlocking Canada's full economic potential, but it's not enough.
To build Canada strong, the government is working closely with provinces, territories, and Indigenous peoples to identify and catalyse projects of national significance. Projects that will connect Canada, that will deepen Canada's ties with the world, and that will create high-paying jobs for generations. Given the pace of change and the scale of opportunities, speed is of the essence. Through the creation of a new major federal project office, the time needed to approve a project will be reduced from 5 years to 2, all while upholding Canada's world-leading environmental standards and its constitutional obligations to Indigenous peoples. The government will also strike cooperation agreements with every interested province and territory within 6 months to realize its goal of one project, one review. When Canadians come together, Canada builds things that last. Éliminer ces obstacles qui freinent.
By removing these barriers that have held back our economy, we will unleash a new era of growth that will ensure we don't just survive ongoing trade wars, but emerge from them stronger than ever. It will enable Canada to become the world's leading energy superpower in both clean and conventional energy, to build an industrial strategy that will make Canada more globally competitive while fighting climate change, to build hundreds of thousands of good careers in the skilled trades, and to build Canada into the world's leading hub for science and innovation.
Critically, the government will undertake a series of measures to help double the rate of home building while creating an entirely new housing industry, using Canadian technology, Canadian skilled workers, and Canadian lumber. The government will introduce measures to deliver affordable homes by creating Build Canada Homes. This mission-driven organization will act to accelerate the development of new affordable housing. It will invest in the growth of the prefabricated and modular housing industry, and it will provide significant financing to affordable home builders. The government will make the housing market work better, including by cutting municipal development charges in half for all multi-unit housing. The government will drive supply up to bring housing costs down. The Canada Border Services Agency will be given new powers to examine goods destined for export, to prevent the transport of illegal and stolen products, including cars. Le gouvernement protégera.
The government will protect Canada's sovereignty by rebuilding, rearming, and reinvesting in the Canadian Armed Forces. It will boost Canada's defense industry to invest in transatlantic security with Canada's European partners. And it will invest to strengthen its presence in the North, as this region, which is an integral part of Canada, faces new threats.
To protect Canadians and their sovereign rights from wherever challenges may come, at home or abroad. To keep communities safe and red flag laws. Weapons licenses for those convicted of intimate partner violence and those subject to protection orders will be revoked. Of illegal guns and drugs across the border. It will take these steps while protecting the rights of law-abiding gun owners and Indigenous peoples' long-standing hunting traditions. The government will bring a renewed focus on car theft and home invasions by toughening the criminal code to make bail harder to get for repeat offenders charged with a time of great change. Canadians are uniting behind what makes Canada unique.
The French language and the Quebec culture are at the heart of the Canadian identity. They define the country that Canadians and I love so much. Canada is a country that respects and celebrates its official languages and Indigenous languages to the world, such as CBC, Radio-Canada. It will protect the people who give us access to fresh, healthy, and quality food, agricultural producers, and it will protect supply management.
Nature is core to Canada's identity. In 2022, Canada convened COP15 in Montreal, which concluded with 196 countries striking a historic agreement to protect 30% of their lands and 30% of waters by 2030. To this end, the government will protect more of Canada's nature than ever before through the creation of new national parks, national urban parks, marine protected areas, and other conservation initiatives. The government will always protect the rights and freedoms that the Charter guarantees for every Canadian. The government will be a reliable partner to Indigenous peoples, upholding its fundamental commitment to advancing reconciliation. Central to this commitment is the creation of long-term wealth and prosperity with Indigenous peoples. For that reason, the government will double the Indigenous $10 billion, enabling more Indigenous communities to become owners of major projects. As Canada moves forward with nation-building projects, the government will always be firmly guided by the principle of free, prior, and informed consent. Canada's immigration system has long been a source of pride for Canadians and of dynamism for the economy. The government is dedicated to rebuilding the trust of Canadians in immigration by restoring balance to the system. Le gouvernement instaurera.
The government will cap the total number of temporary foreign workers and international students to less than 5% of Canada's population by 2027. By doing this, the government will attract the best talent in the world to build our economy while sending a clear message to Canadians working abroad that there is no better time to come home.
Dans toutes
The government will be guided by a new fiscal discipline. Spend less so Canadians can invest more.
day-to-day government spending, the government's operating budget, has been growing by 9% every year. The government will introduce measures to bring it below 2%. Transfers to provinces, territories, or individuals will be maintained. The government will balance its operating budget over the next 3 years by cutting waste, capping the public service, ending duplication, and deploying technology to improve public sector productivity. In parallel, the government will take a series of measures to catalyse new investment to create better jobs and higher incomes for Canadians. The scale of the government's initiative will match the challenges of our times and the ambitions of Canadians. Honourable Senators, members of the House of Commons, when my dear late mother addressed your predecessors 7 decades ago, she said that in that age and against the backdrop of international affairs, no nation could live unto itself. It is a source of great pride that in the following decades, Canada has continued to set an example to the world in her conduct and values as a force for good. À vous.
And to the people of Canada, my heartfelt gratitude, and that of my wife, for the warmth of the welcome which we have received.
And reminds us the true North is indeed strong and free. Members of the House of Commons, you will be asked to appropriate the funds to carry out the services and expenditures authorised by Parliament. May you honour the profound trust bestowed upon you by Canadians. And may God bless and guide you in all your duties.
And we just a while ago listened to King Charles III while he actually delivered a speech, a throne speech, I must say, to the Canadian Parliament, which is in solidarity with the new administration of Mark Carney, who is the Prime Minister of Canada. And he touched on so many things that has to do with peace, stability, building a stronger economy, dealing with climate change, and positioning Canada as one of the top powers in the world. I am Lekon Onobanjo. You're welcome to this special broadcast, and I'm not here alone.
Yes, I'm Felicity Ezewike, and together we'll be taking a look at this throne speech by King Charles, who happens to be the head of state of Canada and of 13 other Commonwealth realms. This is his first trip since his coronation to Canada. He's been there prior as Prince of Wales. This is his 20th trip, but his first trip as the King of the United Kingdom.
Of course, and we understand that the kind of government that Canada runs has a prime minister anyway, and they are I don't want to use the word subservient, but then they answer to the Kingdom of the United to the United Kingdom, so to speak. And now we have King Charles come to Canada to explain to them what his policies are, what his plans are, what his vision is for Canada, owing to certain different challenges that the country has faced, and how strategic it is, looking at the potential that it has for growth, and of course how to unlock the potential that Canada has for itself, for growth, for prosperity, and of course how it can also contribute towards the different challenges that we've seen in the global sphere, and how Canada can be a powerful and a potent force when it comes to dealing with those global issues along climate change, geopolitical tensions, and all the crises that we've seen in different
these
economies.
Are actually, if you look at the global issues that the king is talking about, he did say something that is instructive. He says Canada is ready to build a coalition of like-minded community with values that promote growth. So he also said Canada is ready to lead, as it will be demonstrated in June when they convene the G7 summit. We're looking forward to that. It is a throne speech, and it is important because it is the first since the king was coronated, and this happens to be the 45th session of Canada's parliament. He is not there alone. He is, of course, with his queen.
Camilla.
Yes.
And it's nice to see that at this point we have him come around to give some sort of boost, moral boost, to the House of Commons in Canada. And we have someone, of course, we have a guest who will be sharing his thoughts with us as regards this throne speech by King Charles III.
Yes, I understand we have Alexander joining us now. If you can hear me, Alexander, thank you for speaking with us.
My pleasure.
All right, just talk to us about the speech. This is the throne speech. Why is it so relevant?
Well, as aforementioned, it's the first speech by King Charles since he's risen to ascend the throne from his mother. And it's also the first endorsement of our new Prime Minister, Carney, due to the recent election in Canada. There's been a lot of controversy around the trade tariffs with the United States, and I think Canadians need to be reassured that England stands by them, and England also supports Carney, the new Prime Minister. King Charles was very politically correct. He didn't name Donald Trump by name. He referred to American president. He was not critical of him, but he did make the strongest statement, being the true North is strong and free. And I think with that one sentence, he says it all.
This brings us to the point where we ask about what you consider as threats to Canada's peace and economic stability. It was part of what the king spoke about.
Well, Canada, unlike the United States, we're a bilingual country, French and English. We have strong roots with France and England. Canadians, generally, they're North Americans, but we have one foot in Europe. We're more European in our culture than Americans are. And we're proud of it. We have one of the richest countries in the world, and I think we've been spoiled. We've become too dependent on our American brothers to the south in terms of business and trade because frankly, it's just too convenient. We have the largest border in the world. Vehicles, industry, commerce was flowing across that border unimpeded for many, many years with our free trade agreement. That has now been interrupted with the tariff threats, I might call them, because I don't believe that they're going to stay. I think there are concessions that are going to be asked from Canada, both militarily and security-wise, and energy-wise. And I think the tariffs were the starting point of that negotiation. How they're going to play out over the next 60 or 90 days is yet to be seen. We are a valuable resource to America, and I think America has to realize that our relationship with America is like no other country in trade, and the ratio of trade, which is also important to note. Tariffs are to equalize trade. If trade is lopsided, 5 to 1, 4 to 1, you introduce tariff, try to come to that 1 to 1 ratio. The current ratio between Canada to U.S. trade is $350 billion from the U.S. into Canada, and about $412 billion from Canada to the U.S. That ratio's only a difference of $65 billion. It's also important to note what Canada sells the U.S. is mainly raw materials, which are then fueling U.S. jobs, value added to those raw materials, and then selling it back to Canada and abroad. Whereas the U.S. goods coming into Canada are mainly finished goods. They don't create jobs in Canada, at least not to the extent that the Canadians' goods to the States do. Our automotive sector is probably the most vulnerable, and that accounts for about $75 billion between automobiles and parts.
All right.
So,
yeah, I was just going to deviate a little, and let's look at some of the issues that we need to look at. I mean, our audience here in Nigeria and across Africa might not understand the need for the king to be in Canada. Earlier, the Prime Minister in May said he invited the king to formally open the 45th session of Parliament. Talk to us about this tradition and why it is necessary.
Well, again, it's a formality. England doesn't rule Canada, but Canada never had a war with England to gain its independence, as America did. The relationship is very strong. I think it was more for moral support in lieu of the trade actions. I think it also indicates Canada is a member of the Commonwealth, which of course Nigeria is as well. Canada is going to be looking to increase its trade relationship with other countries because of what's happening with its relationship in the United States. And I would think Canada will also be looking to Commonwealth countries in Africa to expand upon that in the very future.
All right, let's look at some of the highlights that people tend to focus on when speeches like this come. It doesn't just come and go, or does it actually impact policies, decisions that are to be made about tariff conflict with the U.S., and, some of those conversations around perhaps making Canada a state in the U.S.?
Well, I don't think that's going to happen. I think as a Canadian myself, I've never seen so much patriotism and unification, regardless of the party you voted for, as a stand against being annexed by the United States. I think President Trump is very calculating in a lot of his off-the-cuff comments, and he knows how to invoke an emotional reaction. He's done that before, and he certainly got one in Canada. That's his negotiating style. Sometimes people don't understand it. Certainly, the average voter wouldn't, but I think it's part of his strategy. And at the end of the day, America is going to get some concessions. But as far as annexing Canada is concerned, I don't think that's possible.
Okay,
we can actually focus on trade relations between Canada and the United States. But then the king was very vocal about removing trade barriers for growth, looking at the internal crisis in Canada. I wonder what those barriers are for you, and how do you think the legislation that are needed can actually bring about liberation?
Well, I think you really have to look at the numbers. I'm an engineer. To me, math is truth. If someone tells me 2 + 2 is 5, I'm going to debate that with them. Let's look at aluminum. Canada exports about 85% of the U.S.'s aluminum, and they want to put a tariff on it. That aluminum creates American jobs in goods that are then resold to Canada. The reason they're buying from Canada is aluminum is made from bauxite, and it's a very intense process using a lot of electricity. Canada has cheap energy. In Quebec, where the bauxite is mined, the cost of electricity is about 2.6 to 2.9 cents per kilowatt, whereas the average price in America is over 18 to 28 cents a kilowatt. So to re-incentivize the Americans to producing aluminum, I think they're gonna have a lot of barriers within their own country. It just doesn't make sense. Likewise with our lumber industry, there's many forests in the States, but they're just not viable for cultivation.
All right, Alexander, I would love to speak to you more about the importance and relevance of this speech, but we are compelled to wrap things up at this time. Thank you very much for speaking with us on this subject. In about 10 minutes, so stick around for one slot.